Hello, everybody, and welcome to another conversation with Carrie and Dani. I'm Carrie, that's Dani, and we're just here to have a conversation about, different thoughts that are running through our head, and so we'll see where this one goes. One thing that we've been asked a lot, after we left the religion we grew up with, where do you go from here? So I've been out about just over 3 years. Dani, I think it's been a year and a half for you?
Yep.
Something like that. So,
Yep.
have you thought much about that? When people ask you, what do you do now? Where do you go? What is your response?
Oh, I think I stand there with my mouth open like I'm trying to catch flies and go, well, my brain goes, "Zzz," and you'd think by now I'd have a pre-prepared response.
Hmm.
Well, see, it's different for me because I don't think I've landed anywhere yet. I don't know if I want to land anywhere. So you've landed in another church. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
I was it? Oh, it's just, I don't know. See, it's a year and a half since I officially left. But as I've said before, I was a bad Adventist for a long time.
Hmm.
So I've been in and out, sort of, technically. I, I was at the hairdresser's yesterday.
Your hair looks lovely, by the way.
It'll be curly again once I wash it. I was
Yep.
at the hairdresser's. This is to make sure there's no dreadlocks hidden in the curls.
Hmm.
Uh, and we got talking about something, I forget what, and quite how it came up, because I was there for a few hours and we're chatting away. And I'd said to the lady, because it's a new hairdresser I haven't seen before, and I said, "Oh, I grew up in a high control religion." And she said, "Oh, are you still religious?" That was easy. I was like, "No, I don't like that word religious. It reminds me of all those times in the Bible that Jesus talked about the Pharisees, and the whole religious system type thing. And I think
Hmm.
I've fought against that my whole life. And then she said to me, "So what are you?" Sort of, and she didn't say it like that. She's just really casual. I said, "No, no, I'm
Hmm.
not religious anymore." And she goes, "Oh, so what are you?" Like, oh, like, and I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like speechless for a moment or two, and that doesn't happen very often for me. And I said, I'm probably more like spiritual. And she went, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm really spiritual too." And then, oh, and then all the things that I got told growing up in the church started to kick in my brain. And I mean, I don't know about what it's like where you were. So it'd be interesting to hear. But in the culture, in the religious culture I grew up in,
Hmm.
spiritual people are the ones that have crystals and go to tarot cards and spiritual people talk to the spirits. I mean, I think my friends in normal Christian churches probably would see that differently because they have a different relationship with the Holy Spirit.
Hmm.
Did I ever tell you about the time, and I've still been about 25 years, 30 years ago, I went to this really deep inductive Bible study and we were studying things and the guy teaching it was asking all these questions, and even though it was inductive, the only right answer was the one he wanted you to land on.
Of course. Yeah.
But I don't know how inductive it really was, despite
Right.
being called that. And then and he was like, somehow he proved from the Bible that the Holy Spirit automatically comes when you accept God into your life and get baptized. Like they all happen together.
Hmm.
And I remember, and this is someone I really deeply loved and trusted, and so their words really impacted. And I remember him saying, "So because the Holy Spirit naturally comes, because it's like it's this it's Jesus's spirit, so thing. Like so
Hmm.
this spirit is like Jesus's spirit, and Jesus talks about my spirit or something, and so it comes with him when you ask him into your life. They like come together, and then he goes, so you never should actually pray for a spirit. You should never pray for the spirit to come and dwell within you because if you ask the spirit to come and dwell within you, you'll get a spirit, all right."
Hmm.
I'm just looking at the look on your face.
And I can't see, I don't remember, something like that in particular, but yeah, and you said that, it's all supposed to happen at the same time. Like when Jesus was baptized, the Father said, "This is my son," and then the dove came down, and it's all like simultaneous. It's like, so do we get to experience baptism exactly how the Son of God did, right? Like, it's a little bit different. But then in the Adventist church, you sometimes wait a full year. Like you're like, I want to be baptized. I want to ask Jesus into my life. But in order to be baptized, you got to go through the 28 fundamental beliefs. And sometimes it can take a full year. Like if you want to get baptized at summer camp or something, it's a full year. So do you have to wait until for that full year before the Holy Spirit's going to work on your life? It's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. So this whole, if you ask for the spirit to come and live within you, you'll get a spirit, all right. It sort of really impacted me. And then you add that to all the things that have already been taught about what spiritual people are. So spiritual people were always the woo-woo ones. And it
Hmm.
extended far enough in the culture I grew up in to also include, like tree huggers and um um
I remember not that long ago, if somebody would say to me, like, I am spiritual, not religious, it makes me go, "Pff, well, what do you even believe? You know, like, how, like, that's just dumb. Why are you going to say that? And now I'm going, you know what? I kind of like that concept because I'm at this stage, like right now, you said I kind of land, yeah, sure, I've landed at it's a non-denominational kind of a mega church situation, which is fine, but it's the very contemporary worship. I literally bought myself a set of concert earplugs to wear to church last weekend because to me it can be a sensory overload experience for me because it's just too loud. And if I'm not in the right headspace, I don't enjoy it. And so I do occasionally, there's another church in town that I visit sometimes as well. So I'm not actually a member of this larger mega church situation that we go to. Um, I don't know if I want to be because it's very different than the situation we grew up in, where if you're a member for life. It's like you've got to fill out an application and then the elders have to approve you, and these are elders that you've never met because it's a mega church. It's just, I don't think I want to deal with all of that.
yeah,
So it's more like I think you and I are we're in, I think, different spaces, but we're also in kind of a similar space
yeah.
where
Um,
we're kind of, and you said that you were more of a bad Adventist for years. I was a pretty good Adventist. Like my husband was a preacher. Like I married a seminarian. So I was the
yeah.
good Adventist, had a little rebellious heart, but still
Oh,
did all my stuff. So my deconstruction is more just kind or and disentangling. I kind of like because you like that phrase
yeah,
disentangling better, and
I
I
do.
I prefer it as well. So just trying to figure out what is important to me now as far as my belief system.
Yeah,
Where do I want to focus my time and my energy? And the beauty of many churches that are non-Adventist is that they don't necessarily have, and some of them do, but the ones I've experienced
mm,
don't necessarily have this solid set of beliefs that you have to believe every single one of these in order to participate in
yeah,
our church body. They're more focused on the greater church body instead of just their own
yeah.
organization, if that makes sense.
It does. Um, I didn't tell anyone at church I was a bad Adventist. The people I was going to church with didn't know I was a bad Adventist. That's just what I called myself.
Sure.
I'd go, I'd go out, when I was doing rock and roll, and also when I was doing Ciroc dancing, we'd go out dancing on a Friday night and until quite late, and I'd still go to, I still go to church Saturday and
Hmm.
turn up with my Bible and wash and looking all prim popper and a little bit po-faced. um, and stuff. So it's not like I told anybody. But I was embarrassed for the last probably 25 or 30 years. And people used to say to me, back to the whole, what do you tell people? So people used to say to me, what religion are you? And I was always embarrassed to tell them I was an Adventist. Because
Hmm.
I don't know why, I just was. I know why now, but and I'd say to them, or they'd say, oh, what church do you attend? What religion do you belong to? And sometimes because, you've been brought up, as we've talked about before, you're never allowed to, you can't say anything bad about the church and you can't be a bad example of the church because you might cause someone to stumble and stuff. So,
So
and
if
I
you
knew
say you're one of us, you better behave like one of us.
I didn't want anyone to not get to heaven or not join the Adventist church because of how I was. And I knew there had to be an Adventist to get to heaven. So well, I don't believe that now. If you're new to listening to this is sarcasm. I don't believe it now. It's what I was taught. I did believe it. And so I used to say to people, well, I went through a phase in my late 20s and early 30s of saying to people, well, I attend the Adventist church when I do go, but please don't judge all Adventists by me because I'm a really bad one. And so I told people that for probably 10 to 15 years. And I can't now, when I think about all the time I spent praying for forgiveness and begging God to still like me, even though I was so awful, for things that I now realize aren't even sins, is just ridiculous. It's like, whoa.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting though, because there was always a little bit of a layer of secrecy around the fact that you were an Adventist. Like just a little bit. Like I remember when my husband first started pastoring in we were in Minnesota at the time, and we got one of the, I don't remember if they were Amazing Facts or one of the evangelist guys came to our local church.
uh-huh.
And as you do, we started the evangelistic series in the local community center, not in the church. Okay. And none
Yeah.
of the brochures said that it was put on by the Adventist church. If you were asked, you were not really to say that you were Adventist. Like you're still supposed to, until you reveal the truth of the Sabbath, then you can let them know. And that's when they moved. That's how they did it in the US. They still do it this way. Then they moved the meetings actually to the church. So even though we were supposed to be proud to be Adventist, when you were advertising or recruiting, it was still. So I called somebody on this less than a year before I left. I said, "Why do
Yeah.
we do it this way? That's stupid. Like, why are we hiding ourselves?" And this individual said, "Well, this is the way that we've always done it."
It's crazy.
Because all it takes is you get a flyer, like the former conference president, Ted Wilson, did a series of meetings here at the big city close to us, and I got a flyer in the mail. And it just said Pastor Ted Wilson is that it doesn't say anything about Adventism. It's a prophecy seminar, so hoping to hook you that way. All you have to do is Google Pastor Ted Wilson, and you know exactly what it
No.
is. There's no hiding stuff
Yeah.
anymore. You just can't.
I just after that phase, I got to my
Mhm.
next phase was
Yeah.
I started saying to people when people ask me about stuff, they'd say, "Oh, you're a Christian, or what church do you go to?" I'd say to them, "Oh, official for this.
Yes.
I don't I don't really believe, and I'm not a big fan of organized religion. It was my sincere phase.
hmm
I'm not a big fan of organized religion. So I don't really identify strongly with any church. I prefer to think of myself as a friend of God's.
hmm
And it's just, at the time, I really meant it. But now I couldn't say those words because they just, they feel condescending and pompous to even get them out of my mouth. Hence why yesterday I was stuck going and nothing came out.
Because I think that you and I have both discovered how important authenticity is when we're in relationship with people and talking to people. And when we were so trained to not say anything bad about the religion or the church. So when we have an opportunity to talk to somebody, you're like, I can't say anything bad. So my mama said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
You know? Yeah. Oh, I've got to tell you. So for probably 30 years of my life, this was my favorite story. Okay. So I'd say to people, who's your favorite like famous person? And they'd be like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, so one of my favorite country singers is Garth Brooks. I've never met him, but I think he's amazing.
hmm
And so if I was to say, if I was to send a petition around the whole world and collect a list of names for everybody that said, are you a, and I said, are you a friend of Garth Brooks? And they said, yep, but I'd write their name on this big list. So if I created a list of everyone that said, yes, I'm a friend of Garth Brooks, it would be really long, wouldn't it? They go, yes. Now, if I took that list to Garth Brooks and said, now, please look through this list and tick off the ones that you consider to be your friend. Do you think the list would be shorter? And they'd go, yes, the list would be much shorter. I'd say, yes, right. And that's exactly how it is with God. So you can't judge him by all the people that say they're his friend because, when the list gets to him, they might not be on it. They really might not be his friend at all.
Very good. Very good.
So I'm a bit embarrassed about that now. So if I'm blushing and going red, it's because I can't believe still what a pompous little ass I was sometimes. But that's how I was raised to be inside my true religion.
I have a cat in here who is demanding, oh, love and affection, treats, So I'll give he likes these little tube treat things and they're a good. Where are you going now?
My cat's at the window wanting in, but I haven't let him in.
If I
I'm
don't let the cats in, it's a um yeah, I'm giving him his tube treat here. So, well,
you
there
do that.
was there was a oh goodness, several years ago, there was like a spoof app, like they did an advertisement for this app for your phone, and it
Yeah.
was called the Badventist app. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
So its claim, of course, it's fake, So
Yeah.
the claim was that if you had this app, if you were out to eat or something, it would alert you when another Adventist was nearby, and so if you were drinking coffee or something, you could hide it, or you could just pretend like if you had jewelry on, you could take it off really quick. Um, so yeah, it would give you a ding when the good Adventists showed up, and so nobody would find out. And I remember different professional encounters, at work where what your husband's a pastor? Where does he preach? You're Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, what do you? And so I'm trying to come up with, what you believe. Oh, why don't you eat pork again? All of those things. But as far as, where I'm at now, if somebody asks me, what are you doing now? I'll just say, well, I go to, if they're local people, I'll tell them what church I'm going to, and I'll just say, yeah, I'm going there for now. It's not, I'm not a member there. We're active in a couple of pretty important ministries that the church offers, but we don't know. I think just with everything that we've been through with denominations and churches, that I'm not sure my husband or I would ever be willing to sign up to be a member of a denomination, maybe a specific church. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
So you're in a mega church, you can hide. Our closest little local church, I think, on a full day might have 25 members, so I can't hide. Although I did send you that picture of it, remember? And it's right up on the top of a cliff and looks out over the ocean.
it's just
Um,
beautiful.
it's
Oh,
incredible. So they're really nice, and I go when they have community days. So when we had that community lunch because the local cafe had closed down for the winter and stuff, I went to the community like morning tea and said, bring a packet of biscuits and come and have a hot drink with us and stuff. I knew well over half the people that attended that. And
yeah.
that was really nice and that to go. And one of them had said to me, oh, look, come down on Sunday. We're a bit thin on the ground. And I was like, yeah, 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 yeah. People I know and they're people in the community that I'd like to build stronger relationships with. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'll come down on a Sunday. And then that was like 2 weeks ago now. And so last Sunday I woke up and I thought, it's today. Um, and I don't know. I couldn't go. I just couldn't go. And I know that's not because I'm scared. I know the people there. It's not that far down the road. It's not like when I was going to the Adventist church. I don't have to shower and blow dry my hair and put on my fancy clothes. So there's no clothing stress to attend. I just I just didn't want to leave the house.
Well, it's cold
Mm.
there right now. So that makes
I
it,
know, but
you know.
even in summer, I don't know if I would want to leave. I don't know. I'm hoping that'll change. Hoping that'll change. I'm wondering if maybe some of my experiences with the church were more traumatic than yours, so it's a little bit harder for me to actually make that push to go somewhere else.
Well, and I've talked to a lot of people who've been through church trauma, church hurt, whether it was in Adventism or other churches who just feel like they can't even go into a church building. It's just too traumatizing and scary for them.
It's just weird. It's just weird. I'm not because I know the people there, and I mean, I'm not. I mean, I've got my ladies group every Thursday down here, and we do. There's five of us. We've been meeting together for coming up 6 or 7 years now, and so they're my main spiritual support group, and we spend hours on the Zoom calls together and talk about everything. And then, of course, over the last year and a half, I've been helping out with the Good News Fellowship,
Hmm.
Peter's group and stuff. So I'm not short of. Maybe that's it. Maybe for now, the online stuff fills the same gap, and so I don't feel a need. I mean, if if you're not hungry, I was going to say if you're not hungry, you don't eat, but that's not always true. Sometimes I eat because it looks good, not because I'm hungry.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Generally, we're not moved to do things if we're not feeling a desire or a want or a something for
Well, and
those
the
things.
early church was house churches and didn't meet necessarily a specific day of the week, as far as we know. I know Adventism would argue about that, when they would meet, and that's not what this conversation is about. But I
No,
think I think it's important, the Bible does say in one or more, two or more, or whatever are gathered in my name, and I think that
yeah.
the beauty of technology is we can do that from the four corners of the earth and get together, and I think my husband and I have become more and more convinced that the house church and the smaller groups is really where it's at,
Oh my
you
goodness,
know?
seriously. These ladies that I meet with every week, they're just incredible. And we have our ups and our downs and our disagreements and our everything else because we're real and we're all really strong personality and we're all really, really different. But the thing is that it doesn't make or break it.
Hmm.
Um, and they've just, I, th- they're the reason really that I ended up seeing the truth about who God is and leaving the Adventist church. It wasn't initially a theological thing. It was just real, authentic Christians rocking up every week, warts and all.
Hmm.
It was just incredible and stuff. It's just, yeah. So if you're one of our listeners and you're still here at the end of this odd conversation, I know I know because I know some of our regular listeners, and I know some of you have joined other churches and have aspirations to join other religious orders, even and bits and pieces. But there's got to be some of you out there that a little bit like me, maybe that haven't landed anywhere yet, or that are in the in-betweeny stage still. And so, what do you tell people? I'm just wondering, what do you guys, if someone asks, where do you go, or what do you do, or what do you believe, or are you religious, or what little box would you put yourself in? And if, like me, you don't want to put yourself in a little box at all,
Hmm.
um, how do you describe it? I'm really curious. Um, and yeah, I'm also curious to know because I mean we've got listeners from different countries that aren't from where I live and stuff. So where you've grown up, what does spiritual mean? If someone says, "Oh, I'm spiritual," do you have the same things as the culture I grew up in, where traditionally spiritual people, read tarot cards and had crystal balls and I was gonna say communed with animals, but I mean I talk to my animals, but not that sort of talking,
Right.
and all those sorts of things. Or does spiritual because I think the meaning of the word spiritual is changing as I get cultures change and words take on new meanings all the time.
Yeah.
Um, and when I was a teenager, if you were gay, you were just really, really happy.
Right.
We sang songs about it at church, remember? I've
Mhm.
got good reason to be happy and gay. So words change their meanings all the time. So I'm just curious, what do these words we're talking about mean in the culture that you live in?
Hmm.
And how do you navigate your way around them? I'd love to hear some
Yeah.
stories from people.
Well, and I'm in a very yeah, I would say I was gonna say in a very churched community, but I'll say I live in a community with lots of churches.
Okay.
So there's lots, I mean, there's like 50 different churches here in town that I could choose to go to. There's two Adventist churches. One is Spanish speaking, one's English, but then there's a whole bunch of different Baptists and just a bunch of different churches. So I have a smorgasbord to pick from if I wanted to. So that's and so you're out kind of out in the middle of nowhere, so you've got just a little bit. So it makes it a little bit harder to just
Oh,
sneak out of church, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, I don't think that having more options would change how I feel about it at this point because
Yeah.
I know these people.
Yeah.
They're my neighbors, so to speak, the country mile neighbors.
Right. Yeah.
They're just down the road. Take you 40 minutes to get there.
Well, and I show up at some of the churches. I'll show up and I'll see two or three people that I've cleaned their teeth because I work right in town. So
Yep.
they look at me like, "Who are you?" I'm like, I tell them who I work for, and they're like, "Ah, okay."
No, so just, I mean, I know these people, they're nice people.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I just, I think part of it's the rhythm of life too.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a rhythm. And of course, I was born into the Adventist church. And so it's a
Hmm.
rhythm that just didn't change.
Hmm.
Um, it's just, yeah, it's just, uh, it's one of the things when you study psychology and that you realize that rhythm and seasonal things, if there's no seasons, but your body still has rhythms and it recognizes them and it remembers them. And for a long time, I used to talk to my friend Sherelle every Saturday because it was just after I first left, because even though I wasn't getting up and showering and getting dressed for church, I would still wake up on a Saturday morning and my body remembered the rhythm of, I don't know, for me, it was always a mix of stress and expectation and busyness.
Hmm.
There was the busy, 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 till you get to church and sit down, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, find some peace, find some peace, find some peace, find some peace. And then you're like, oh, back again.
But you don't want to find too much peace, otherwise you'll fall asleep during the sermon.
Oh my goodness, I've done that. Oh,
My dad
yes.
would do that occasionally, and I visited a different church on Sunday, and I sat next to a friend, and her husband was sitting next to her, and at one point I looked over, and he had kind of nodded off, and I saw her like give him the elbow, wake up.
Oh yes, I've done that, seriously.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just so your body remembers the rhythm. And so my body also remembers the rhythm of Sundays, which was always um sleep in. So waking up earlier on a Sunday is hard. It's like I sleep in and then sleep in on a Sunday morning, and then breakfast is always bigger and fancier. So
Hmm.
it takes longer to cook it. And they just it's about changing a whole rhythm. And I guess once I gave up one rhythm and one like ritual, you could call it a ritual, even when I gave up one ritual and rhythm and one way of being, the other ones became more important because you got the whole this is what I've lost and this is what I've still got type thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes, I just don't know, I'm not quite ready to change them all yet.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
you're right. Summer will make it easier because I did look at the church car park at that morning and realize my wheels was spinning getting up across the grass. And I thought I'd have to park on the road and then I'd have to walk up, and it was raining.
yeah, nobody wants to do that.
But none of that would stop me if I really wanted to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think it's just like, anytime that there's a change in your life pattern for some reason, it can be hard so yeah, I mean we still have different patterns and things, so we'll figure out the week. Sometimes I have to think like, what day is it? I don't even know. Then I have to think about what day, and I got to make sure I know what day it is, otherwise I might not show up for work one day and that wouldn't go over well. But
Well, I suffer from that because I woke up the other week and completely forgot about you. Got the day of the week wrong. Oh,
It was
yeah, I'm
such
supposed
a
to record. I was messaging you. Were we recording this morning, Carrie? Yeah, we were supposed to start an hour talking an hour ago.
it was only 18 minutes, but who's counting? Oh, the struggle of the different time zones. So, anyway, well, folks, leave us a comment, like, subscribe, let us know what are you doing right now? Where do you feel fed with your spiritual life? Or are you in church, not in church? No judgment, just curiosity. And I think that that's important. I have learned that that's kind of one of my favorite things right now is not the judginess of towards my spouse, towards other people I interact with is just not there anymore. And it's so much more peaceful. Being curious as to why people do the things they do. Why do you live the way that you live? Why do you do this? So, no judgment. Just tell it, we're just curious. We always like to learn. I always like to learn from other people. So, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next week for another conversation with Carrie and Danny. Bye, y'all.